Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet, share with your friends, hit that little notification bell so you can get notified when new patterns release. All our videos are available in left and right-handed tutorials. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal and today we are going to be making the Scrappy blanket cardigan. Now this cardigan comes in size small and medium. They are a 2 size difference, so small/medium, large, extra large, 2 and 3X, and then 4 and 5X are all the sizes that this project comes with. You will be using double strand for this project. These could be in scrap yarns. I mean, it is a scrappy blanket, but what I'm doing is taking this bin of all of these one single skeined partial skeins. Because I have a lot of this one, I'm going to use this one as my first strand and then just mix in different kind of yarns that I have single strands of or partial balls, and those are the scraps that I'm going to be using. And you are going to need approximately 2.5 to 3 pounds of yarn. The yardage is very difficult to say exactly how much, but approximately 1,000 yards of each strand at the smallest, and approximately 1,600 to 1,800 yards at the largest size. Now we'll be using 2 sizes of hooks today. The 8 will be for the body and the arms of our project, and then we will move to a 6.5mm hook just for the sleeves where the cuff is. Now let me show you exactly how we're going to work this project. This project is basically a rectangle with arms. So our starting chain is going to be the length of our project from the back of our neck all the way to the bottom underneath our bum. Okay, we're going to first work in rows for the front panel, and then we're going to leave a hole for the arm, and then we'll continue to work the back panel. We will then leave a hole for our arm. Remember, our rows are going this way. And then we'll work the rest of the front panel. So we'll have one large rectangle with 2 holes for the sleeves, and then we'll work our sleeves on each side. Okay, now this is a really simple 4-row repeat. We're just working double crochets and V-stitches. So go ahead and grab your yarn and we will get started. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your double strand and you're going to go ahead and do a slip knot. And now the first step that we're going to do is chain 81. 81 is going to be for all sizes. If you need to adjust the length, remember this is going to be the length from the back of your neck down to the bottom of the back of your panel. If you need to adjust your length, you will add or subtract in multiples of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my 81, and then I'll come back and show you how to get started on row 1. Okay, now that we have our 81 chains, we're going to start with what we're calling a stacked double crochet. First, what you're going to do, we're going to start with a stacked single crochet to create a double crochet. So what you're going to do, because we're not putting edging on this cardigan, we're going to make our edges as straight as possible. So instead of just doing a chain 3 or a chain 2 and a double crochet that leaves crooked edges or a gap, we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. And now, see how there are 2 front loops of the single crochet? There's this one and there's this one. We're going to go into the second front loop, the inside of the work, and we're going to make a single crochet. Now that is how we are stacking our single crochets to create a double crochet. And now what you're going to do is double crochet into every single chain space all the way to the end of your work. So in the end, you should have 80 double crochets, and that also includes your stacked single crochet to create a double crochet, because it is a double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and work my row out, and then I will come back to you and show you how to get started on row 2. Okay, I've just finished my first row. Now we'll go ahead and turn our work. We're turning after every row here. And we're going to also again start with the stacked single crochet. Now we're not chaining one after we turn our work. We're going to go straight into the top of the first stitch, make a single crochet, and then single crochet into those that front loop of the single crochet, not the outside of it, the inside of it. Can you tell? There's one front loop here, and there's one front loop here. This is the inside, this is the outside. We're going into the inside and single crochet. Now we are going to double crochet into every stitch all the way to the end of the row, and you should have 80 double crochets yet again. You're going to do that for 2 rows. So you should have 3 rows of double crochet when you meet me back here to get started on row 4. Okay, so I want to show you guys this. When you get to the end of one strand and you want to add another color, you can do what you normally do, make a knot, weave in your ends. I like to use the magic knot, so that way I don't have to weave in ends. There are no ends to weave in. So what I'm going to do is place the 2 ends right next to each other. Let me snip this one and make sure it's nice and straight. So we're placing the 2 ends together, and now we're going to hold it snugly with just the tip pointing out. All right, now we're going to take our new yarn and we're going to wrap around our thumb and the yarn 2 times. All right, place your finger back just like this, and now what you're going to do is take this new yarn and put it in between the yarn and your thumb. See that? It's in between. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it over that, like tuck it in there real good. Now hold that really tightly and start pulling on your new yarn. And there is our knot. Now if you pull this really tight, the yarn is going to break before the knot breaks. Now it might take you a couple of tries to get the hang of it, but that's okay. Just keep practicing and you will get it. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead. I have 2 rows of double crochet. I'm going to finish out that 3rd row and I'll meet you back here for the next. All right, so I've made it to the end of row 3 and we're going to get started on row 4. So you should have 3 rows of double crochet, and getting started on row 4, what we're going to do is start again with a stacked single crochet to create a double crochet, and that's at the start of every row. Okay, and now what we're going to do is skip 1 stitch and into the next stitch make a V-stitch. So that's a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet into the same stitch. Now you're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and make a V-stitch into the 3rd stitch. And this is what our repeat is going to be all the way down to the end of the row, skipping 2 stitches, V-stitch into your 3rd stitch. so finish that down all the way to the end until you have 2 stitches left, and I will meet you back to show you how to close out the row. Okay, so we have made it to the end of the row. You should have 2 stitches left, 1, 2. So now we're going to skip 1 stitch and put a double crochet into the last stitch. And this is our repeat row. We have 3 rows of double crochet and then a row of V-stitches. So we're going to repeat that. So you will turn your work, do a stacked single crochet to create a double crochet into the first stitch. And now we will double crochet into the double crochet into the chain space of your V-stitch, and double crochet into the next double crochet. So you're going to do that all the way down. It's just a row of double crochets. Okay, so what you're going to do from this point, okay, I know it's kind of hard to see because of all of the colors of the project, but what we're going to do is, if you are working the size small and medium, you are going to have 4 repeats. So this is your first one, and then you're going to repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 more times. So you should have a total of 16 rows. If you're working the size large, extra large, you're going to have a total of 5 repeats. 2x, 3x, you're going to have 6 repeats. And then 4x, 5x, you're going to have 7 repeats. And then all sizes are going to do 1 more row of double crochet. Okay, so work your repeats anywhere from 4 to 7 repeats, and then 1 more row of double crochet, and then we're going to begin our arms. So I will meet you back here after you've done all of your repeats and that 1 extra row of double crochets, and we will begin the arms. Okay, I have completed all of my repeats, and I'm finishing off with a double crochet row after my V-stitch row. And now we're going to get started on the arms, okay? So everybody's arms start the same. We're going to do a stacked double crochet into the first stitch, well, a stacked single crochet. And now we are going to double crochet 15. All sizes will double crochet 15. It's 1, 2, 3. So now that you've got your 16 double crochets, I'll go ahead and actually leave the numbers scrolling up on the screen per each size, how many chains you're going to do, and then we're going to skip the same amount of stitches. So the size I'm working is 24 chains. 5,
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
23, and 24. And now I'm going to skip 24 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And in the next stitch, I'm going to go with a double crochet. And now we will double crochet all the way down to the end of the row. Okay? So once you've finished that, this is the armhole. When we come back with our double crochet row going this way, you're going to double crochet into each stitch, into each chain, just like we did in row 1, so that our stitches don't shift, okay? So finish out the row with double crochet. The next row will be our third double crochet row of the repeat. And then you'll go ahead and again begin with your repeats, the V-stitch and the 3 double crochet rows. So the amount of repeats that you're going to have are going to be just 1 less than what you made for the front. So if you had 4 repeats in the front, you're going to have 3 repeats in the back. If you had 5 repeats in the front, you will have 4 repeats in the back. So to sum this up, what we're working on now is not part of our repeats, it's part of our arm. We have our first double crochet row. Our second double crochet row is part of the armhole. The third double crochet row will be next. Then you'll have your V-stitch row, and then we will do our repeats. And then we're going to do the same thing all over again, finishing after our repeats with an extra double crochet row, and then doing the same thing for the arm on the next one, okay? So let me explain this a little bit better to you. Okay, so when we do our repeats, so for example, if this is a size small, there are 4 repeats, and then we have where the armhole is as far as the double crochets and the V-stitch row, and then you'll have 3 repeats. And then you have the extra double crochet row, the armhole, the extra double crochet row, and the V-stitch row. And then you'll have 4 repeats again. So it'll be the front 2 panels, 4 and 4, and then the back is less 1. So if you're doing the medium large size, you would have 5 repeats, 4 repeats in the back, and then 5 repeats on the other side. Same thing as the 2x and 3x, that would be 6, 5, 6, and then the 4x, 5x would be 7, 6, and 7. All right, so hopefully that is a little bit more understandable. I'm going to go ahead and finish out the body of mine, and then I will come back so I will teach you how we can work out the arms. Okay, so getting started on the arms, you'll start on either arm space that you have, one side or the other. They're both going to be done the same. And we are going to take our yarn. We're still working with our 8mm hook. And you can start by joining with a slip knot, chaining 2 and doing a double crochet. I am going to join with a standing double crochet. It's not really going to be a big difference, so whatever really your preference is. Okay, so we are going to start right here at this double crochet at the bottom of your armpit. And we're going to start with a double crochet. I'm starting with a standing double crochet. All right, so that is your first stitch right around the post at the bottom of your armpit. Now we're going to place 2 more double crochets right around that post. So you should have 3 to start with. So just like that. And now we're going to double crochet in each stitch all the way up to the top of our armpit, the double crochet post at the top. So these are the top of our double crochets here. And we're going to double crochet into each stitch until we get to the top. Okay, so when we get to the top, we have this double crochet post. This is the top of our armpit, so we just worked up, and here's the top. We're going to place 3 double crochets over that post. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we are going to double crochet into every stitch going back down the bottom where we started. So this stitch is worked because that's the double crochet post we just worked, and on this side I am working at the bottom of the chain spaces, and I'm just going to double crochet all the way down that until I get to the bottom of the armpit where I just started. Okay, so now that I'm back to the bottom where we started, I've worked my last double crochet into the last chain coming back down, and now I'm going to slip stitch to join. Now I'm just going to slip stitch over one so that we can start right into the third or the middle stitch here at the bottom. All right, so now getting started on round 2, we are not turning our rows for the armpits. We're just going around and around and around. So for round 2, we are going to chain 4. Now this chain 4 is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1. Now you're going to double crochet into the same stitch that we started in, and that's going to create our first V-stitch. Now we'll skip 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and then we're going to V-stitch into the next stitch. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way around until we get back to this part. Skip 2 stitches, V-stitch into the next. When you come all the way back, you should have 2 stitches left, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of the third chain. So let me work my way around, and then I'll meet you when I get back to the beginning. Remember, skip 2 stitches, V-stitch into the next, which is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, so now that I have made it to the beginning of where my row is, I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the third chain to join. And now I'm going to slip stitch into the chain space. So I'm starting in the middle of the V-stitch. And now we'll chain 4. And that again is going to count as our double crochet and our chain 1. We'll double crochet into that V-stitch. And now we're going to V-stitch into every V-stitch all the way back around. So work a V-stitch into every V-stitch all the way back around your arm, and I will meet you back here again. Okay, getting started on round 4 for our arms. We finished our last V-stitch, and now we're going to slip stitch into the top of the third chain space. And now we're going to slip stitch over. So here's going to be how we are going to first be decreasing in our arms. Okay, so we had row 1, 2, and 3. Row 4 is going to be part of our decrease. So we're just going to chain 3. That's it. We're not putting a V-stitch into there. We're going to go straight from here, and we're going to V-stitch into the next V-stitch. And now we're going to V-stitch into every V-stitch all the way around up to the last V-stitch here, and then we'll slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. So go ahead and place your V-stitches in each V-stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, so now I've gotten back to the other side, and I'm going to slip stitch to the top of my chain 3 to join. Okay, now we're going to repeat round 3 for rounds 5 through 8. Now round 3, if you remember, we were slip stitching to the chain space. So round 3 up here, we slip stitch to the chain space, and we put our V-stitch into every stitch all the way around. There was no decreasing, there was no increasing or anything like that. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're in the top of our chain 3, slip stitch over to our chain space. And now we will chain 4, double crochet into our first V-stitch. And then V-stitch into every V-stitch all the way around. Now when you get back to this point, Remember, you're joining to the top of your third chain, and then you are slip stitching into your chain space. So your first V-stitch should be into this first chain space for your next round. So you're going to do that for rounds 5 through 8. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. So you should have 4 rounds of V-stitches, no decreasing and no increasing. And that's how we're going to work this one out, okay? And then I will meet you back for round 9 because we will decrease again in round 9. Okay, you guys, I have just completed round 8. So remember, round 4 was this round where we just had a chain 3. We're basically eliminating the V-stitch from round 3. So round 4 had that chain 3 that was basically eliminating the V-stitch from round 3. So we had, this is your decrease row, and then we did 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of V-stitches. Now we're going to do a decrease row again, and round 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are going to be your repeat rounds. So remember, for round 4, we slip stitched over to our V-stitch and we chain 3, and then we work directly into the V-stitches, creating a V-stitch into each V-stitch all the way around. And then when we come back, we're slip stitching to the top of the third chain to join, okay? And then remember, at round 5, we slip stitch over to the center of the V-stitch and begin our V-stitches that way, eliminating essentially this chain 3. So hopefully you'll be able to see this. This is your round 4, which had your 3 chains, then working your V-stitches all the way around, coming around with your last V-stitch and slip stitching to the top. Okay, so this V-stitch turns into a chain 3, and then it just becomes eliminated in the next round. Slip stitching over to your chain space, and then working V's all the way around, slip stitching to the third chain to join, and then working that over. So you're going to repeat that rounds 4 through 8, however many times until you get the desired length of your sweater. Typically, you're going to repeat it about 2 more times. Now you can stop at any row. You don't necessarily have to do the full repeat, just till you get to the desired length, and then we'll switch out our hook size to work the cuff. And then I will go ahead and meet you back here to show you how we're going to get started on that cuff. Okay, so I have finished my sleeve. It should be a lot wider. So right now is the time that we're actually going to switch to a 6.5 millimeter, and that way what we're going to do is make the cuff, so it's going to bunch in, okay? So what we're going to do for round 1 is we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and then single crochet into the same stitch. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to skip all of these chain spaces of your V-stitches and work around the base of your sleeve, just single crocheting into your double crochets, skipping all of your chain spaces. So the way this cuff is being worked is pretty much just going to be like a moss stitch. If you find that your cuff is too tight or it's a little bit too loose, you could always change your hook size to go up a size or down a size. Or say if it's too tight, then you can just add a couple of single crochets into your chain spaces going around. Okay, so I've made it all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to my first single crochet to join. And now we're going to get started on the moss stitch part. So we're going to chain one, and then we're going to single crochet in the same stitch. And then our repeat is to chain one, skip one, single crochet into the next. Chain one, skip one, single crochet into the next. And I realize the stitches are really hard to see with this yarn, and I apologize, but as long as you can hear me, you're chaining one, skipping one, single crocheting into the next. Okay, so when you get to the end of your round, let me just pause for a second and apologize about the background noise. I have a large dog, cats, another dog, kids, and it gets loud. You will have one single crochet left, so you are going to chain one, skip that last single crochet, and then we'll slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet. And now we are ready for round 3. Round 3 will be your repeat round. And what we are going to do is slip stitch first into your chain space. Now you will chain one and single crochet into your chain space. Chain one, skip your single crochet, and place a single crochet into your chain space. And that's it. So you're going to do this round, slip stitch to join, and then of course slip stitch over to your chain space, and you're going to repeat that round until you get approximately 10 to 12 rows in your cuff. That's really just going to be dependent on your personal preference, how wide or thick or long you want your cuffs to be, okay? All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching Jolie Knots Crochet. I'm Crystal. Don't forget to find me on Facebook and Instagram under Jolie Knots Crochet. And don't forget to join the Jolie Knots Crochet community group to show us what you've created. Now you're going to do the same exact thing for your next arm, so you can just go ahead and rewind and get to the beginning part of the video. You're going to work your second arm again, like I said, the same as your first. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all being here, and we will see you next time.